Welcome to 10 Minute or Less Reviews, where I review things and you don't have to sit here for an hour and listen to me ramble. I know, isn't that so great? Today is Starfield's Shattered Space DLC. Now, unfortunately, I am one of the unlucky souls that trusted Bethesda and pre-ordered the game, and all that ended up giving me was a bunch of depression at the fact that I wasted money when I could have just played it on Game Pass, and what that also gave me was intense depression at the fact that I got access to the first DLC despite the fact I had no interest to play it. Now, Starfield in its main story put me to sleep. I did not enjoy it, I thought it was confusing, the ending pissed me off, and I never touched the game after that. This is important to note because a lot of Starfield fanboys and a lot of Bethesda fanboys and even more Xbox fanboys, they loved this game, and I'm going to get this out of the way right now. If you enjoyed the base and core story of Starfield like a fucking psychopath, you will enjoy the DLC. I mean, at that point, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You will enjoy the DLC, so just go fucking play it. I'm not here for you. However, if you're on the fence and you're considering buying it, or you own it but don't know if it's worth your time, or you hated Starfield and want to see if it's worth getting back into, this is the review for you. Now that that's all out of the way, I've got about 9 minutes to get everything out, so let's get straight into the review. Let's start with the story. The story, in my opinion, is unbelievably lackluster, and I'd rather drill fucking nails into my head than play it. It's not that Bethesda's story is bad, because they're telling a pretty solid story. It's how they're telling it. It's a fucking snore. The ideas that they had were, I mean, alright, but it's kind of like Star Wars Outlaws. That idea you had only gets you so far. You've got to be able to fucking execute on your ideas, and I mean, Bethesda is just missing badly. And I've got to say, maybe I'm only not enjoying this DLC because I've just replayed Phantom Liberty, which is another DLC, and that is just so much better than what Starfield is capable of producing. And I've got to say, I think it's just fundamentally flawed. And this is going to be my overarching theme about the story. The story is fundamentally flawed from the get-go. They're trying to build off of the core ideas of what Starfield is or what Starfield is trying to be, but the story of Starfield sucks dick. And it's not per se building directly off of the story, but it is still using the same characters and it's trying to use things that were hinted at in the main story. But in order for me to care about anything that is happening, I needed to care about the core gameplay to begin with, and I don't. The simple fact is, and I think the faster Bethesda realizes this, the better the game could potentially be, which is that players just don't like the game. They don't like the ideas you built, they don't like the story you were building, they don't like the universe you were building, and they want you to do something different. And unfortunately, I don't think this DLC really cared as much as to break away from the core identity they had already built for the game. This part, again, is really hard to make because I'm avoiding spoilers in order to allow you to experience for yourself, but just long story short so I can move on to gameplay, this is just a fundamentally flawed story, and if you liked the fundamentally flawed story of the Starfield campaign or the core missions, whatever, you're going to like this. If you didn't, don't even bother, you're not going to enjoy it. Now, moving on to gameplay. Gameplay is basically the same old shit you played previously. They do add new items, they do add new guns, they do add some new shit to the game to try and keep you interested, but for me, I already had a pretty OP character, I had an OP gun, and I kind of just blasted my way through enemies like it was cakewalk, so I mean, you're gonna have to create a new character, which means you're going to have to play through the story again, which means you're going to have to again enjoy the original core gameplay of Starfield. I will say, however, the coolest thing they added were these little, I don't know what they called them in the game, I've already forgotten, but these like shadow people that you have to fight. They're really interesting. They're the most unique people you'll meet in the game, in my opinion, but it doesn't do enough with it, in my opinion, as well. I think they kind of just brush through this entire DLC. It feels rushed. And the fact that the recommended level is 35, meaning you can't just create a new character and you can't use the one you already have if you played Starfield at all. So you're going to have to keep playing through the original game in order to experience this DLC how it was intended. And if you wonder why I keep mentioning the fact that you have to play through the original game in order to experience this the way that they want you to, is because a lot of people don't want to do that, and a lot of people don't want to play Starfield again. So the fact that you're forcing them to in order to experience this DLC properly is a little bit of an oversight in my opinion. And I also think that gameplay wise, the only thing being added is new story missions, a couple new guns, a new city. It's just not enough. This game's been out for what, almost a year now, and it's only gotten this DLC and a couple small updates that added something as simple as a fucking vehicle that should have been in the game to begin with. Bethesda really needed to deliver more. I mean, this is a year in the making and they still couldn't add more to the game than this is just sad. There is no reason to play Starfield over a game like Cyberpunk. There's no reason to play Starfield over a game like No Man's Sky. If you want a good RPG, just play other Bethesda games, or if you don't want a Bethesda game, go play Cyberpunk. If you want a space game, go play No Man's Sky. I mean, fucking go play literally any other space game that's on the market right now, and you'll find some enjoyment out of it, more than you'll find out of this. Now, with that being said, I'm not just hating on Starfield because I'm going to give it some props. Starfield does add some really cool environments. The new city looks amazing, but at the same time, there's more content on a Pornhub site than there is in this game. And that's literally everything. You might be saying, no, there's got to be more. I mean, this video is only 6 minutes long or 7 minutes long. That's literally everything. I'm not going to hold you here. I'm not going to hold your hand through the purchase. This is simply it. The game is what it is. It's Starfield, but with a new story. Do you like Starfield's original story? If so, buy the DLC. If not, don't buy the DLC. It's really that simple. Okay, but what's my review? Well, I'm going to give Starfield Shattered Space a 4 out of 10. It's a below average DLC expansion that does add a band-aid to the fundamentally flawed universe of Starfield, but doesn't do enough to push it over the limits. It's simply just not enough, and I think Bethesda is trying to just get a cash grab out of this game before they inevitably abandon it. Last but certainly not least, my recommendation, should you buy it? Me personally, I recommend that you don't. They're probably not going to do much more with Starfield if this one doesn't sell well, which I'm assuming it's not going to. And it's also the same exact price as Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk, and to price it the same as Phantom Liberty is a slap in the face to DLCs. That's going to do it for me. If you enjoy Starfield, you're going to enjoy it. If you don't, you're not going to enjoy it like I didn't. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch relatively consistently from this point forward. I'm thinking every week on Tuesday, maybe Thursday, but keep posted in my posts on YouTube as I will keep you updated as that goes. And a more further decision on the future of my channel, I'm basically going to have two style of videos. The reviews, like this one, which are more serious and more quick paced and just straight to the point, and then more of my rants, which are going to include more jokes, more personality, all that good stuff.